Hello! This is DnD Guru. My group and I run a game. We record it. We use Fantasy Grounds, Discord. We're on our third campaign. Only our third campaign is up on YouTube. You can go to my page and see them if you want. But I decided that I was going to start making videos that have to do with some of the issues that come up at the table regarding the new 2024 rules. And this is going to be one of those videos. So recently at my table, we had a rules debate, and it was more interesting than most of the rules debates that we do have when we're having these debates. Debates are not bad. Have debates. You will learn the system and the rules better and faster if you are willing to talk it out with the people at your table. If you have what I like to call systems attorneys, then all the better for you. System attorneys will learn the system, and they will cite rules and give a clear idea to the dungeon master what the rules are supposed to be, but they don't do what the typical rules lawyer does, and that would be that they weaponize the rules against the dungeon master. I have two system attorneys. And for the most part, if we are discussing a rule, I can rely on them to tell me what the nature of the rule is, the spirit of the rule, what the actual wording says. I don't need to keep all that in my head just for... I'd rather have story, encounters, game flow in my brain. I don't need rules and tables and stuff like that cluttering up what bandwidth I have. Anyway, this debate, it revolved around opportunity attacks in the new 2024 edition, which is what we're playing for our campaign, The Veil of the Ascendant. And in that one, we had our fighter, who had been hit by a confusion gaze by an Umber Hulk. The fighter had to roll a d8, and it turned out he had to use his full movement to run away on his turn. So we determined the direction. He runs, and the paladin mounted next to him on his celestial mount says, "I want to use my opportunity attack." To which I immediately say, no. You can't use opportunity attacks on allies. Well, in 2024, they got rid of the word hostile in the description of the opportunity attack. Now it just says, when a creature leaves your threatened space, which opens it up to your allies. Okay, you can do that. You can hit your ally as he is running in confusion and add to his confusion, is how I saw it at that point. So he rolled, he hit, and he chose an unarmed attack. So I asked him to roll for damage, 1d4 plus strength bonus of damage against his ally. If that's how he wants to play it, sure. But when I asked him for the damage, he said, not going to do damage. I said, if you don't do damage, Sentinel's not going to go off. And he said, I want to choose a non-damaging option of unarmed attack. I want to choose shove. Well, the wording of opportunity attack says that when a creature leaves your threatened space, you may make a melee attack against that creature. Now that attack can be armed or unarmed. That much is true. But when he says, I want to make an unarmed attack, the correct response for you DMs out there, the correct response is to say, which method of unarmed attack do you wish to take? Because you can take one of three options. You can take the damage option, in which you would roll a d20 to see if you hit or not, and then roll damage. Or you can take the grapple option, which would allow your opponent to make a saving throw, or you can take the shove option, which allows your opponent to make a saving throw. We debated this back and forth, not understanding, making rulings. Eventually, we made a ruling in the end that sure, his shove made it. He hit with his unarmed attack. The fighter made his saving throw versus the shove. So he was hit by the unarmed attack. The shove resisted the shove. Sentinel went off. That was the ruling we made at the table after 20 minutes of rules debate. We needed to move on. Needless to say, that was the incorrect ruling. Because opportunity attack calls for a melee attack, that means a attack roll. And damage is the only option available that has an attack roll. And thus, the only option available to use on opportunity attacks. So how the ruling should have went was the fighter runs away. The paladin uses his opportunity attack and declares an unarmed strike. Makes an attack roll, hits, causes 1d4 plus strength bonus and damage. You can choose to make that non-lethal, I suppose, but it's still damage. And resolve the damage. The sentinel goes off, and his partner does not leave his range. That would be a valid ruling. Now, secondary to that, during post-conversation after the game, we learned that because opportunity attacks can now be made on allies, there is a feat that is already considered to be one of the most sought-after feats by casters in the game that now will be elevated to a must-have if you cast spells. Let me explain. Warcaster, in the Legacy Edition, would allow you to take an opportunity attack and make that opportunity attack a spell attack against the creature that was fleeing. That is no longer the wording. Now Warcaster says, if a creature leaves your range and triggers an opportunity attack, you may take reactive casting in its place. This bypasses all rules about opportunity attacks. They're no longer taking an opportunity attack. They have replaced their opportunity attack with reactive casting. Reactive casting states you can cast any spell which has a casting time of 1 action and targets only that creature that is retreating out of your space. But this means that as a reactive cast, as my fighter runs by, whether charging into an enemy or retreating away, should I choose as a cleric with Warcaster to use reactive casting on him, use a spell with a casting time of 1 action and targets only him. Cure Wounds. This would look to the group like I have just made an opportunity attack against my ally and cast Cure Wounds. But the reality of the situation is that I use reactive casting. Now, this also works with spells like Haste if you're a wizard. Any number of beneficial spells that target a single person and have a casting time of 1 action would be allowed with Warcaster. Have fun with that at your table.